What's up, everybody? Today on the Garbage to Gold podcast, I have a very special guest, Dr. Jeff Becker. He's the owner, operator, and founder of Man Up. Man Up is a TRT and hormone replacement therapy clinic in St. Louis, founded in 2015. They have 5 locations all across the St. Louis area. And today I have a conversation with Dr. Becker, and we just talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, everything you really need to know about TRT and hormone replacement therapies, and what his plans are to grow his business, how he got started. We really cover the basics. I think you guys are really going to like this interview. So make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And without further ado, let's jump into it.
Good.
All right. So I got today Dr. Jeff Becker, the owner of Man Up in St. Louis, Missouri. We're only in St. Louis at this time, right?
Correct, right now.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So Man Up is a testosterone and hormone replacement facility, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
We have both Man Up and also Woman Up, our women's line. We do medical weight loss, hormone therapy, both male and female, of course. We've been doing it for a long time. We just finally got our secondary branding on the Woman Up brand as well, because we were doing so much women anyway. And we didn't want to isolate that just through the Man Up brand.
Right.
Because we do just as well with women.
Okay. So for the listeners, why don't you tell them, how long have you been in this, and when and where did you get your medical degree? Because you are an actual doctor.
Yeah. So I got into this back in 2015. I personally had some, like everybody, kind of dabble around. Some guy said, hey, you need to try some testosterone. So I had tried it. Found out very quickly that testosterone can also have a very negative side effect on you when not done properly. And so I had developed some problems functionally that I've never had before. Then when I went to find out, how am I going to fix this? You couldn't find anybody that really knew what they were doing with this. So I found out then and there that this was something that was really needed and really not really covered very well in the industry here. And so that's when I started putting my focus obviously on fixing myself, made some contacts very, very quickly. Some of the largest companies in the United States that were doing this, made some contacts and got some information from them, and then went through some training as well in order to get this done. And again, doing it right. I've always been one that I don't cut corners. I don't do things kind of half-ass. And there's so much of it going around that's being done wrong. And still people are getting fairly good results. But if I can get better, why would I not want to do that?
Testosterone definitely works. I mean, I've been coming here for about a little over a year now, 2 years now. And I've had nothing but good results, and I've learned a lot from it. Because, I always knew that at some point I would probably try it. But in my own research, in my 20s, I wanted to try it, but I was like, I don't really need it at that point. But once I hit 30, I was kind of like, you know what? I can do it. I'm not under contract with any sporting organization that, prohibits me from doing this. Like, at some point I'm really going to need it, so we might as well just, get on to it. And I had a friend that was coming here, and we also had a friend that, was selling his own steroids.
Okay.
And he was kind of the expert.
Right,
and,
right. The bro code?
Yeah. And I'm like, I tried, something that he had, and like the first initial shot swelled up so bad, and I was in extreme pain, and I was like, dude, this ain't right.
This isn't gonna work.
Yeah, this isn't good. And so I came here, told them what happened, and they're like, oh yeah, that shouldn't happen. And then the rest was history. It was all good from there. But so where you got into it in 2015, were you already a doctor at that point, or did you?
Yeah. I've been practicing since '97. So my primary focus was actually on nutrition. I actually have a background. I'm a chiropractic physician. So my background was in chiropractic. And what I did is, in my degree, I have all the degrees up until a point when it comes to medication. So what I have to do is hire the medical staff in order to do all the medical side of things. So I hire my collaborative physician, I hire my nurse practitioners and that. And so then what they do is they go through our immense training protocols in order to know and understand how we as a company operate and how we do things differently. So that's really what it comes down to, is establishing those protocols, the treatment programs, for them, and then how we continue to develop and grow those as well. So.
Okay, cool. So you've been in since '97. Originally a chiropractor. I get chiropractic, right?
Yep, yep.
And then got into the testosterone thing. So that's actually pretty cool. And the last time I talked to you, I was asking, because I had noticed just myself that a lot of, these little clinics are starting to pop up around the city, and it seemed to me like maybe there was a government regulation that may have been lifted that has allowed this industry to kind of expand. Or in your experience, has it always been legal? Because steroids are kind of looked at as like
It's
kind
really
of a gray area.
whenever you're looking at testosterone, it's in utilization of replacement. It's not really steroids. Steroids would be the abuse of anything, just like you could abuse food, but that would be an abuse of something. That, in other words, you're taking somebody beyond what would be considered a normal level of testosterone. So there are places that may do that, but most of the time, usually centers won't do that. They won't take somebody beyond what's considered normal limits, lab limits of normal testosterone. Again, we're looking to help patients to improve their way of life, not having to add more problems and stress to it. So sometimes when those are abused, complications come from that, and it becomes less simple and less easy. When people come to the clinic, they're coming in because typically they've lost just energy, just the drive to just be alive, let alone anything else. So they're literally living to go to work and then come home, and they literally are so dead tired they don't have energy to do anything else. And that often is that lack of that, and several other things that we obviously look at with our blood levels. I think what we do as a company better than anybody else is we look at how your body's running as a whole, and then we correct any problems that might be going on in that manner. Like simply vitamin D may be necessary, B12, simple things, folate, these things that help the body to focus and work properly. Then I always explain, like we're building a race motor. We're going to start by building the motor, then we put the supercharger on top. So then we work with the hormones and what's going on in order to correct that. And that really is based on labs. We run those labs and we educate our patients on those lab results so that when we do that follow-up, they're going to see those results that we were talking about and why they are truly feeling better.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. We had talked about that a little bit last time. If you're, for the average listener out there who's, maybe not super familiar with testosterone, and maybe you're thinking about, giving it a try, or some sort of hormone replacement therapy, whether you're a guy or girl, you have to think like your body is, kind of like an engine, and, maybe you don't want to run it like a high performance motor, but there is a lot of like just routine maintenance to keep your body, healthy, and healthy. You can't really go to just any doctor, you can't go see your regular health physician that you would go talk to if you were really bad sick and ask them, how to maintain your just day-to-day health, because they don't really know. And that's seems to be a general consensus with a lot of people, is that even like doctors, like, well, they don't really talk in medical school about like just regular
therapy, or even healthcare or supplementation.
Yeah, how to just keep yourself healthy.
What can we do nutritionally? What can we eat? Not only supplements, but what else can we eat? Food in order to maintain. And those are some of the things that are lacking. To be honest, most of our healthcare system in the United States is all about putting out fires. It's about treating symptoms. But it's also partly created by this environment of the TV. Oh, try this drug, and then the patient goes and see the doctor and says, "I want this."
Right.
And telling the
Very
doctor, and the doctor
profit-driven.
saying, "Okay," or maybe not. So a lot of that doesn't really treat the underlying condition. For example, vitamin D being low can cause you to feel like you have osteoarthritis. So now they're treating you for osteoarthritis if they don't test for it, and all it is low vitamin D. So these are some of the things that we look at, again, from the standpoint we want our patients to feel good, be healthy.
Right.
We want them to feel like they don't have that lag. They have unlimited energy through the day, finish their day, have time, even want to go to the gym, or even whatever your hobby is. That's the red flags about this are like if you're losing the desire to even do things you used to love to do, hobbies, there's a problem. That's depression that's kicking in. That's from just lack of any ability to drive, because then you're hardening yourself like, oh, I used to be able to do this. Now I can't. I'm feeling lazy because I'm just sitting here, but I just can't do it. And what would it feel like to be able to say, I'm home and I'm ready to keep going, and I'm going to keep going,
Right.
And then you're exhausted just for bed, go to bed, sleep through the night properly, wake up in the morning feeling refreshed, ready to start the day again.
Right. Yeah, I like that you guys do like the blood test regularly, and you start with that first baseline test. Like as soon as you come to a Man Up, like they immediately take the blood, see what's going on with you. Basically, everything that they can learn about your body. They kind of know right there, and they just look at your levels like, hey, what's up, what's down, what's okay and what's not, and then you kind of build the program around that. So like, I guess the people that come here, do you see more men or more women, or is it pretty
It's
much?
really getting pretty equal. One of the things that I talk about even with patients, because people are like, well, I wouldn't have my blood work done and it was fine. Well, there's a difference between fine and optimal. We run on optimal ranges.
Mm-hmm.
Vitamin D, 50 to 100 is the levels. If you're at 51, your doctor will still call you and say your levels are fine, even though they're deficient. You're like a D minus on a report card of where your D should be at.
Still passing.
So yeah, you're there, but since it's responsible over 200 functions in the body, don't you think you'd want that in more of an optimal range for your body to utilize that? So these are things that cause hormone imbalances. And you talked about age, 20 years old or 30 years old. There's different programs that we put somebody on when they're younger that don't stop their production. So they made them not be on testosterone. They may put on like a pill called enclomiphene, which will help boost the body's pituitary system to actually boost their own testosterone.
Right.
Or HCG we talked about as well, which will boost normal function of the body, which we, as you know, put everybody on so that aspect that we don't ever let your testicles stop working.
Yeah, HCG. I didn't know I had heard about it on a YouTube video, like when I several years ago, whenever I'd first considered even trying testosterone, and there was only like one person that was talking about it, and he wasn't a doctor; he was just some bodybuilder on the internet at the time. This is 10 years ago, and I would ask people, I'm like, well, hey, what do you know about HCG? Like guys that were like at the gym, obviously using, and they're like, you don't. I don't think you really need that. You don't really need that, And where would you even get it? And it's like, But like that's the type of information that people are getting. And there's a lot of, when it comes to like the younger kids out there that are wanting to get in shape, there's a lot of bad stuff that you can get into and you can mess yourself up. And there's like a lot of guys on YouTube that are big bodybuilders that are like dropping off dead, from like mixing crazy drugs. Can you speak on that at all? Like what's your thoughts on, people just abusing?
Some of the guys, they think that their cycling is going to keep their body working still. And what they find out very shortly is not the case. They end up having erectile dysfunction. They end up having all the signs and symptoms of the body not producing any of its own testosterone again. So this is, again, we support with HCG. That keeps the testicles working. They're responsible for your sex drive, for your libido, for your erection function. All those things are responsible by free testosterone, which is what HCG boosts. Testosterone, when we give it to you, is going to boost your total testosterone, which is tested everywhere else. But most don't test the free testosterone, which is just as important a number, if not more important, for what that total number is going to actually be available for the body to use. And again, not turning off the systems. That's when we get people from other clinics that are not running HCG are coming in there and they have erectile dysfunction, going soft during sex. Their libido's all over the place. Their emotions are all over the place. No consistency in that. And like I said, for a male, it's a big deal when you don't have erection things go in the right direction for you, and that's a big problem, particularly when you didn't have that prior to starting therapy. So when they come in from other centers that I know for a fact do not utilize that, I know what their problems are, and they looked at me like, how did you know? Because I see it every day.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. I feel bad when I hear people talking about it, wanting to get on steroids, and you start hearing all these crazy compounds that are talking about, and you kind of have to look at it like if you're even going to consider doing steroids or even just a regular testosterone period, like you need to do it the right way, and you got to think about like it's kind of like building blocks. I've heard it referred to as like you don't want to put rocket fuel in a regular car. And that's what you're kind of doing, if you've never done anything before and, you go in and you start taking something like, even Deca or Trin or something like that, that's going to fry your receptors. I mean, yeah, you're going to probably see some results, but I mean, you're going to fuck yourself up too. And I guess you've probably seen that, people who have done something stupid like that and then they, finally come here and their shit's all messed up, and now you got to try to re-regulate.
Yeah, usually they're coming in because they are having erectile dysfunction and they can't get it to stop. The medications aren't working anymore. their spouse or girlfriend's getting ready to say sayonara because, hey,
Right.
they're not functioning. And so now we get to go back and try to fix some of those issues that have been caused over that period of time. And during the length of time, it depends. It can be a long process often to correct that. And with the younger kids starting this, if they're starting on testosterone right off the bat, they're creating a situation where their body won't produce it or will significantly decrease, or even depending on how long they're on it, can shut it down completely. And again, the whole cycle process is proven. It doesn't work. It's old bro science that, hey, this is what happens. You get on off it, let your body wake back up again. Not to mention, you talk about roid rage, or people talk about steroid rage or roid rage. It's actually whenever the testosterone goes down and the estrogen's left high, because estrogen being high is what causes that instability in emotions, the aggravation, the short fuse, the base anxiety, the depression.
Right.
All those things come in from that.
Kind of
imbalance.
explains why women are so crazy.
Could have something to do with that since it's a major hormone for them, right? So,
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a big deal. It is one of the things that I think we do so well, and why we're busy like we are and have 5 centers open is because we really focus on correcting what's going on, stabilizing, supporting what they need, and not overdoing it, and making sure that they're safe. The lab work is where you keep that safety involved. There are risks with testosterone therapy, particularly when it's not being monitored. I've had people come from doctor's office that hadn't had a lab in a year's time on testosterone, and that is insane to me.
Yeah.
It is extremely dangerous.
A lot of things seem to start to go wrong.
Extremely dangerous. Sometimes the dosing's so low with some of these doctors that it won't have a negative effect, but at the same time, it's not having a positive effect either. So
Right.
it's not enough to actually have a true benefit.
Yeah. What's the point of even taking it?
Feel the reasoning behind it, or dosing testosterone every 14 or 28 days makes no sense, since testosterone cypionate, which is the most common base testosterone used, is a 7-day half-life. So that means every 7 days minimum, you have to re-inject if you're doing injections.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I guess you're always kind of entrepreneurial. And did you start Man Up, or was it already something that you kind of were able to buy into?
No, I started it from ground up, from scratch.
From ground up.
Yeah, I started, what I did
That
is,
was in 2015?
2015, I bought into a medical clinic, bought out a medical clinic. They were doing primarily weight loss. This is kind of right when all this stuff was going on with me, and I wanted to get it done right. So that's when I started the program in 2015 in that particular center in O'Fallon. So that's where it all started from. And again, using systems to fix myself, but also to then work with our patients and get the best results that we could. Again, still refining to this day.
Okay. Did you have like a friend that kind of put you onto it or anything? Or was it just like kind of fell in your lap?
No, it was driven by me because I had the problem. I found out that nobody knew what they were doing. You want to find a solution very quickly, let it happen to you, and you'll find out a solution very quickly. I've always been a problem solver. That's basically what entrepreneurs are. We solve problems.
Right, yeah.
So now I have a major problem that I've never had before in my life, and that's a pretty quick way to escalate, finding out how is this going to be fixed, and finding out who didn't know what they were talking about. And so it was pretty scary, actually, to know that the people that are in the medical community that are supposed to be treating this don't have a clue what they're doing with it.
Right. Yeah, it is pretty wild. Because I've heard some crazy things about different ways to administer like testosterone to your body. Like I know a guy that told me he gets like a little surgery. He goes to a place and they like put like almost like a testosterone chip in his butt cheek.
Yeah, pellets.
And then it just kind of slowly releases testosterone into his body. Now he's in pretty good shape and takes care of himself. So I mean, seems to be working. It's just like, man, I don't know if that's how I would go about it. I definitely don't like doing shots. And when I first started doing this, like I had to go to a friend of mine. His wife was a nurse, and she would give me the shot. And then I was just like, oh, this is kind of weird. I don't really like this. So I started doing them in my leg, and even still, it's like a year in, and I'm still like, God damn it, I gotta go do a shot. Like, but it's just, it's part of it. It's definitely part of it. But that's another thing that you got to be careful with, not fucking yourself up when you got to self-administer it.
If you are, if you're not coming into the clinic, right?
Right.
And we don't charge as a company. We don't charge anything for coming in. Some clinics do charge if you come in. We don't charge anything, and we will obviously train patients to make sure that they are inserting in the right areas, because there's a couple big areas that are pretty safe, the 3 major areas to inject in, and so that doesn't become a big problem. The pellets that you mentioned before, the problem with the pellets is especially for a male, there's large amounts of pellets that they're putting in, and often they're falling out throughout the process because they don't seal up. The other issue is they don't really time release. They say they time release, they don't. We had a kid come in that was 28 years old, never had kids, which should never be put on pellets if you have not had kids or ever plan on having kids, I should say. And they ran his levels up to 2,300 on testosterone just 2 weeks after the insertion of the pellet. So that tells you right there that process
that'll kind of hold your thing there.
That whole process is way too high. That became, and he didn't feel good. He was referred by another patient of ours who came in.
Oh shit! Other side.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry, sometimes these microphones they just got a mind of their own. Just start to drop.
There we go.
Yeah. All right, yeah. Sometimes if you're like over it, it just like won't pick it up. But
that's funny.
That's all right. So yeah, you started this in 2015. So you're like 10 years in now. You got 5 locations. Are you guys are you like the number one in the area? Because Man Up is definitely the most visible, I think, in the St. Louis area. I've seen some other ones, but were you guys like advertising with 105.7 there for a little while? Because I feel like I had.
It was probably mentality. I'll be honest with you. We generate our patient volume by referral, so which is the best way to do it. You take care of your patients, and it's just things just take off. So again, we've opened 4 other centers in the last year and a half, and all of them are doing very well. All of them very busy. But again, it's because we stay focused on the purpose, which is our patients. If you take care of them, you don't have to worry about it. So generating those referrals by patients' care, by their treatments they're getting, how they're feeling, the amount of weight they're losing. We're taking 2 to 3 times more weight off of patient in 6 months than just semaglutide or Ozempic or tirzepatide as a standalone use, because we're not just what's called GLP-1 clinic. We use all medical weight loss components in order to do that, because that's what we've been focused on for many, many years. So we've got more tools to it. We can take off significantly more weight on somebody in a quicker facet because we've been doing it for a long time. Up to one gentleman, we took 194 pounds off of him in 12 months with hormones and weight loss with him. So
was that with Ozempic? Do you guys administer Ozempic to anybody here?
We don't. We use a product called tirzepatide, which is Mounjaro. It's a dual blend medication. Ozempic's a single phase medication. It has more side effects, has higher dosing levels, and doesn't lose as much weight. So, and again, we don't use any of those as a standalone. We have our own specific protocol, which is why we get the results that we get. We had a lady call in just last week. Her friend was with us for 6 weeks, down 23 pounds. She's been on the same medication, just the tirzepatide, for a year's time. She lost 25 pounds. She wanted to come in and do the rest of our program that her friend is doing so she can get the same kind of results. It's not just the medication.
So is that a big part of what you guys do here? Is a lot of like just helping people lose weight?
Yeah, we help the average person just to get healthy and feel healthy and lose weight. We all the way down to somebody who gets ready for show, for prepping for shows. We teach them how to, get through that process, do it right, do it safely, use labs in order to do that properly. So yeah, we have people that, like one of our ladies, she went from 43% body fat to 6.5% body fat, which is insanely low for a female.
Right.
Like at 55 years old, because she's now going to do a show, and she's always been
at
fit.
55.
At 55, she's always been fit, doing the gym 6 days a week. Even before us, she couldn't shed that weight. She was at 181 pounds. She couldn't shed the weight. Her body was just resistant, insulin resistance, and a couple other things that we had to correct. And once we did that, the weight came off very, very quickly for her. So.
Wow, that's amazing at 50 years old. So yeah, I guess let's talk about, basically, the different types of things that people can come to Man Up for. Because when I think about Man Up, I just think about like, testosterone and, from a man's perspective.
Sure. Yeah.
But there is a whole woman side, and there's a lot of weight loss. And I would, there's a lot of people in the United States that are just incredibly overweight. Like we have a weight problem. And, whenever somebody comes in and they say, hey, I just, I want to lose weight. Yes, there are, drugs and hormones and, vitamins and all kinds of stuff that you can administer to somebody. But at what point do you have to really set them down and say, hey, look, you're going to have to change your diet and your lifestyle?
Well, it's
Like
always
it's
a
that.
part of it. Our weight loss programs are called lifestyles, change the lifestyle. So it's a lifestyle plan. So there's education, obviously, that goes along with that. There's different components we have to take in consideration with that patient, why they're eating. Are they, stress eating? Are they
Mm-hmm.
emotionally eating? There's some things that we do with that. Are there's focus on cravings? So there's different things that we use for each one of those different situations. But often their body is so overwhelmed that they can't deal with it. So correcting the hormones and the adrenal imbalances, where now things don't make them upset all the time. They, in other words, more stable and more emotionally stable,
Right.
so they can handle the stresses better. And then we train them how to properly again eat all foods. We're not
Right.
going to create eat all proteins. We're not going to eat all this or do keto or do this or do that. Those are not going to be sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
And in some cases, not healthy overall for other aspects of what you would see in lab work. So we want to make sure we're giving them education. Also, honestly, how they're training. A lot of people don't realize it, but they're training against themselves. The type of workout they're doing too much cardio, which is causing higher stress levels, which is causing their cortisol levels to go up. Those go up, your body won't release fat. It thinks it's in a starvation mode, needs to save everything it can. So
Mm.
correcting how they're training is often the biggest problem when you have somebody that's training and doing 5 to 6 days a week, but they're doing all HIIT classes, they're doing all cardio classes,
Yeah.
and
See, I do a
now
ton
you're
of
trying to tell
cardio.
them you got to stop, and they're like, what? And I said, well, has it worked for you so far?
Right.
Well, no. All right, so 10 years of doing that, you're still the same place. So how about
Right.
take a page from my book, listen to me, and give me 12 weeks, and tell me how you look in 12 weeks.
Right. So you've had some just massive transformations, people losing 100, 200 pounds.
Oh yeah,
and
100
being,
pounds on men is very, very common. Most women don't have it over 100 or 100 to lose, but we hit 80s, 70s, and 80s and 60s all day long for our patients, females, getting them back down to high school weight. That's just I literally tell a patient, because it is true today with all the processes that we have available. You can truly get somebody any weight they want to be at, as long as it's a healthy weight. The biggest
right.
thing we have with some of the medications is they want to use it sometimes as a crutch because they've lost all the weight. Now they're afraid of it coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's the educational component of it, letting them know that everything we've taught you to do and some of the corrective processes that we've done with your body, as long as you follow through on that, you won't have that weight coming back on, which is the most important part. We don't want them coming back except for to say hi. We want them
Right.
coming back for weight loss at all.
Right. No, that's awesome. Yeah, I've seen a lot of older guys, get on testosterone and they got the big gut, and then it really starts to shrink them down. So will testosterone alone do that, or do they also need to be on like a weight loss? Like
It depends. Some of the
supplement?
guys, they want to try testosterone first because they think
Mhm.
that's the answer. And can it be the answer? It can help. Sometimes it's just because it helps with you having enough energy to go to the gym and do exercise and do things in order to help cut the weight.
Right.
However, if I always tell them, like, what's your focus on? Is your focus on how you want to feel, or is it on how you want to look? And then we choose a plan based on that, because we can obviously put them on some kind of weight loss program that's going to get the weight down faster, right?
Right.
So it's only going to add to it. Testosterone can help you lose weight, yes. But like I said, it's a lot of the side effects because now you're in the gym, working out, doing the things in order for your body to start to go ahead and burn fat. And that's going to help you in the long run. And because you have testosterone in your body, you have the building blocks to create muscle, which means building muscle, the body will burn fat, fat as its fuel source. So that's really converting that system so that their body is utilizing it how it should.
Yeah, so we're about 10 years in, you've got Man Up going. So how much more do you want to take it? Are you going to continue? Do you have like another 5-year plan, 10-year plan with the business as a whole? Like, do you want 10 more stores, 20 more stores?
Yeah, we're just kind of setting up the protocol on that. And it really comes down to quality. So we want to make sure that when we're opening, is that we're opening with people that understand what we want to produce as a company, and that it's reproduced as a company. Again, you go to one store, you should have the same experience at another store if it's a brand. And so we want to make sure that most importantly, that quality of care is never lost as we do this process. So we keep tight reins on, again, training on the providers at all locations, and to make sure that it is consistent across the board. And so that's our biggest concern, is not about how many can we get open, but how many can we get open that are quality providers, quality care, good people behind it, that believe in helping people. And like I said, the biggest thing you talked about, it seems like there's a lot more of these popping up, And a lot of this because there's obviously there's finances. You can make money obviously doing this, but again, this is like anything. If that's where your focus is, you won't be around for long. You know what I mean? So if your focus is on taking care of your patients, you don't have to worry about the finances. Finances will be there. So we just keep our focus on continuing to evolve our program, making sure we are the best, and dialed everything in, and very again educational to our patients, because that's a big part of what I see that most of our patients love is how informative we are and how they love to know what's going on, and being able to again see that on blood work day in and day out. They can say, hey, look at this. Look at my numbers. I just had a lady come in. She's been on one of my programs. That's a burning fat, building muscle programs, and she's already had a 7-pound shift in 3 weeks, and including 2.6 pounds of muscle mass put on in that period of time. So she wanted to add more tone muscle because she was what would be called skinny fat, where you have like kind of skin loose underneath because you don't have any muscle underneath of it, right? And so, but she couldn't develop muscle. So we did some corrective processes in order to get her body open to developing muscle. So it's working already very, very well.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So what's the regulation like? Is there a lot of regulation? Is it pretty easy to deal with? Like, you're obviously not worried about, a 3-letter agency kicking in your door.
No, so you've got all kinds of regulations. You've got controlled substance regulations on everything that you have in the office, like testosterone is a controlled substance. So you just got to have all your ducks in a row. Obviously, going into this, that's a big part of that process. So you got to know that your company's set up properly, that your storage is set up properly for any controlled substances that we utilize in the clinics themselves. So yes, it's very heavily regulated. We've even had the state come in and ask us why we were going through so much testosterone. And so I walked her outside and showed her the sign that said low T therapy. I said, this is what we're doing. But we're getting very, very busy because we're doing this right. And so we showed her the logs, because you have to log anything that goes out of the clinic that's what's called DA controlled substances. So we showed her the logs, and she was out the door in 20 minutes.
They were cool with it. They're like, okay.
Yep. They want to check, make sure
they're just making sure that
it's been regulated, it's been run how it's supposed to, that it's been administered how it's supposed to be done. And when you show them they're happy with it.
So what's you said you got in 2015? You were a chiropractor, had never had a testosterone clinic before, didn't really know a whole lot about it, but wanted to know about it. How did you go about financing everything? Were you able to go to a bank, or did you just have money set
I
aside?
didn't need to. I just had built up enough to be able to do that through the years of doing what I've done. I already knew what direction I was going, just like anything, your 5-year plan, your 2.5-year plan, your 1-year plan, what are you doing? So we had goals and everything set up. I already set that up through the previous years to do this. And so I was ready to do that and didn't need to take on any kind of loan to do that. So
cool. If you don't mind me asking, how much money did it take initially, like initial investment, to get your doors open and start making a profit?
Well, we always, a lot of time. I spent years doing the research and all of this, right? So I did it ahead of time before I even opened the doors. Because again, that's one of the things, even with weight loss, if there's something new that comes out, we're going to trial that first before we put our patients on it, regardless if it's been trialed by somebody else, because we have to know what the results are going to be. So that's a big part of that process, the timing on that. So, I had courses, things that we'd taken, staff that had taken courses. So, you're talking $60,000, $70,000 in investing in the training and protocols and how we manage what we're doing. And then again, we continue to evolve that as we go along through our processes, looking at new ways that we can do this. And that's the big thing. Or again, what does somebody want out of the treatment? Or does somebody looking at anti-aging? We have peptides that we utilize for anti-aging.
Yeah, that's something I want to start looking into.
Somebody's injured, they can use like BPC 157, which is also known as a Wolverine drug, because of its ability to recover is just insane how well it works. So it's become very, very, very popular, enough that the DA was trying to step in and FDA is trying to step in and say you can't use these things or certain things. So that's pretty much when you know
that it's working.
Really, really working.
Yeah.
It's getting attention to the pharmacy groups, and they don't like that.
Right. Well, yeah, obviously, like, your initial investment would be a lot higher than, if somebody, like, if I was to say, hey, I want to open up my own Man Up, what's that look like?
So somebody wants to open one up. There's there's a franchise fee of $100,000, but they're going to look at cost of the build out, cost of the facility, how it has to be built out. So they're looking at probably about $350,000 total investment in order to get one open and running, and legally set up properly, staffing, and that's the franchise fee. Whenever we do this, is also us finding the providers. They don't have to go in and find providers and get them signed up, and all the contracts, everything that's done with that.
Does any of that 100,000 or 350,000, does that go to marketing or any advertising?
Yeah, that's including capital. That's set up marketing capital for the first year to establish all the new patients coming in, all that good stuff. So you definitely have to have the marketing, and that is included in that. Basically for your website and marketing and SEO stuff that we do and set up, and also for your Facebook page, all these different things that you need to set up and establish. That includes all that, your signage on your outside of your building, your, again, interior layout, how it's designed, the different panels and things that we have on the walls.
Do you have to build a Hummer?
Yeah, no, you do not have to. You're not required to build up a Hummer.
Yeah, for the listeners, if you ever come to St. Louis and you're cruising through and you see a Man Up facility, there's usually a bunch of big lifted trucks and some Hummers and some cool something out there, just a big obnoxious vehicle that says Man Up, and it's usually like a really badass Hummer on some big wheels. That was just, I figured, if I was gonna open one, I'm getting me a Hummer.
Yeah, got to get a Hummer out there, right? I'm gonna tell you, everybody talks about it's the Hummers. Go to the Hummer place.
The other day when I was here, there was some guy that pulled up and he's just like looking up underneath it and stuff, and I was like, hey, there's somebody out there.
Yeah. I think he even came in, wanted to know details on the build.
Right.
So you usually have some of those guys who are kind of fanatics about that stuff, and mine are very extreme.
It's good marketing, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets people to stop.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Oh, what do you guys do?" It's like, "Oh, well, come on in.
Come on in. We got you." Yeah. So yeah, it's a process. It was definitely a learning process. I'm really charging just a little bit more than what it cost them to learn how to do that process, and it's just all turnkey. Everything's already set up. Training.
Try to make it as turnkey as possible.
Get established. Training their staff. They don't have to do any of that stuff. So it's
and you don't really have to have a medical. You don't have to be a doctor to open one up, right?
Not in the state of Missouri. You do not have to be one. In Illinois, you do have to be in the medical field in order to be running or operating one or owning one. So there's different routes in different states. But in the state of Missouri, there are no regulations on ownership being medical or even any medical at all. You see, any
and then
entrepreneur
you just hire
can
the
open
medical
one,
staff,
and we hire the medical staff for them to run the clinic.
Okay,
and even
awesome.
the medical assistants training for all of them as well.
So if somebody had 350,000 and they were like, "Hey, I'm going to do this," they give, I guess the 100,000 would go to you, and then the other, the remaining half there would be them finding their place, getting it open, and do they pay? I know a lot of franchises will typically take like a 2 to a 6% like royalty fee. Do you do any of that still?
Yeah, so we do a 7% royalty fee after that point, and it's a 5-year contract on that, and it can be renewed. So it really comes down to, like, again, that support system that we have in play, constant training throughout that process. So their staff will always have access to any of our providers. So we have a connection system for all of our providers for questions that can be asked or answered for any of the providers if they run into a lab or a finding that they've not seen in the past. So it really comes down to really stability there, make sure everything's done right based on good, solid protocol and good results.
Do you guys have like a safety net or anything for like if somebody comes in and is like, "You gave me cancer," Or
yeah, I mean, you've got a malpractice. Everybody's got malpractice covers this thing like that as well. But the fact of the matter is, you don't give people cancer. People have that, and obviously we rule those things in and out because somebody's got active, they're actively treating. We wouldn't put them on. So there's things that we would look at and avoid, just like anything. You're making decisions because, again, we're taking that patient on to make them better, not taking them on to create more risk. So, I mean, honestly, if there's any contraindications whatsoever, we just won't take them as a patient, and we just tell them why. We're here to help, and we're not here to put somebody else at more risk. And in fact, I would say even a lot of times with women, we're able to treat them without even using estrogen in their treatment, because there's ways to work around that. So we use other resources in order to tell the body to increase its own estrogen instead of us giving them estrogen. So again, reducing any chances of side effects or those kind of things as well. Which again, the funny thing is all these doctors that won't treat their patients talk about how estrogen can cause cancer, but every one of these women were on birth control, which is estrogen.
Dude, yeah.
So, but it was okay to not have kids, but now it's not okay to treat symptoms of low estrogen or hormone imbalance in order to have a quality of life. So, again, obviously we always watch and monitor all risk factors, and we're in the business of helping people to get better. So we're not going to risk that. And really, you just don't want to put anybody in that risk. If there are any risk factors there, we just simply tell them that this is not something for you.
Right. Yeah. It seemed like right around so I'm 32. When I was in like middle school, it seemed like that was when like it became pretty much common practice to put a girl on birth control pretty much as soon as her period starts. And that has caused so many problems. That kind of goes under the radar. It seems like every girl that I, seem to talk to or date, I'm single, so I date a lot, but almost every girl's like, oh yeah, I took this birth control and it like fucked me up, like that. Everybody has a story with that, and it's like you're putting whatever's in that shit into a girl that's like 12, 13 years old, and then they're on it until they, into their 30s, on top of everything else that.
Some people longer than that, because they're using that to control hormones, to control some of the symptoms, but there may be a better route to go about that sometimes. So they're trying to regulate sometimes. Often they're putting them on it not just for the birth control, but because it helps them become more regular, so they're having their periods consistently. But again, creating a situation where they feel better, things are regulated. But again, we're not allowed to do that later after that to control outcomes of hormones and how somebody feels and how they're doing it. So that's where I think everybody's so scared of that. But again, it's like anything. Anything can be abused, and anything can be used to help somebody. And again, that comes down to good patient selection. We're making sure we're selecting people that are safe to do this. And again, we do beyond anybody else. At least every 3 months, if not every 2 months, we're checking lab work to make sure.
Yeah. No, I've always had my labs done at least every like month and a half, it seems, and that's good because. And I like also that whenever I come here, like before we did the interview, I come in and I was talking to you, and I had asked you about a particular substance and was like, "What do you, I'd like to maybe try this." And that's when I knew that you were different than some of these other people because you're like, "I don't think that's a good idea," whereas. You could have easily just been like, oh, I make $50 on that drug. So, sure, I'll put you on that. I don't care. And do you think that do you think this industry has that problem?
Yeah, there's some other clinics that are using, for example, we talked about peptides a little bit. A peptide called Samorlin is very good for maintaining weight, helping lose weight, and some other factors too, some skin and hair and nails. But again, there's a certain amount of dosing that has to occur there for it to really truly be beneficial in raising normal, healthy growth hormones, right? So a lot of these centers, they're pushing this very expensive product on somebody at such a low dose that it's truly not going to have an effect on their human growth hormone anyway, or so their body won't really get a true effect. So to me, there are some places that are using these peptides improperly and to make money because they're selling the lowest dose possible, and the patients aren't really seeing a result, which to me, every time you send somebody out here, you're selling your brand, and if you're doing something that is not going to have a positive effect, and you're telling them it is, how are they going to trust you later down the road when you tell them on something? You know what I mean? It's like cry wolf, like, hey, try this product. Hey, try this product. Hey, try this product. I would rather let's start with this one thing, and let's see how you feel here. Then we can add in those things if we're lacking in some area that we can correct by adding that in. But let's see where we get with this, as opposed to a lot of these clinics are pushing everybody on everything right off the bat. Take testosterone, take Samorlin, take peptides, take this, take that. And I think it's like an experiment. The more you put into it, you don't know what's really making you feel good or bad. And I think maybe that's some of what they're trying to do is mix it in together so that people think you have to have this to feel good when, again, it's really not even a level high enough to sustain any improvement, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I mean, there's probably a lot of people, when they come to a place like this, they're probably thinking, yeah, I need, I want to do growth hormone, and I'm going to take, testosterone, I'm going to do all this stuff. It's like, honestly, bud, you just need some vitamin D. Yeah. Or some B12. Yeah.
And that it can be the case in some cases.
Right.
Like I said, we had one guy, his testosterone was very high. So we didn't have to put him on testosterone. It was 895. But his free testosterone was at 6. So we put him on a HCG. And that's what elevated him to use his total testosterone that he had. We didn't have to put him on testosterone at all.
Oh, wow.
So that does occur. It can occur. There's other reasons for the body to also dysfunction. Like you said, vitamin D is extra crucial for testosterone function or formation by your body. So if your vitamin D is very low, guess what? You're more likely to have testosterone issues. So we want to make sure that, so especially somebody who's like in their 20s and they're low, like testing under 300, we need to find out what's going on with the body. We need to figure out what we can do to educate them, what they're eating, what they're not eating, make sure we help them to boost their normal function and not just give them something to shut down their system.
Right. Yeah, I actually, my last lab work came in and I have high oxygen in my blood or something. I bought one of those ion hydrogen water bottles.
Yeah.
And I did some research on it, and you got the Gary Brecka one that's like $400, and then the rest of them are like $100. And I did all the research and like really, Gary Brecka's talking about pretty common knowledge, but he's just the loudest about it. And he's got Dana White as a friend, so that helps with marketing.
Yep.
And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try this ion one, and that was the one that everybody on YouTube has said like actually works. And I tried it, and yesterday was the first time I got it, and I mean, you don't really feel different after drinking it, obviously, but today I do. Today I definitely do. I chugged it like a full bottle of it right when I woke up yesterday, and I was a little bit hungover, which I need to quit drinking completely, but I'll get to that. I chugged a full bottle of it whenever I woke up, and then I just drank regular water throughout the rest of the day, and then before I went to bed, I did it again. And like you were saying, you probably need to do a sleep study because like whenever I'm sleeping, I'm not breathing properly. Well, I think that water helped because like last night I slept really good. I didn't wake up at all. And when I woke up this morning, for the past like 15 years, when I wake up in the morning, the first thought is immediately go back to sleep. Not today. I woke up and I was like, wait, I'm not tired. I'm like, shit, is it like 9 o'clock? And no, woke up normal time, and I just felt like I'm ready to get up for some reason. It was the weirdest shit ever. I'm like, I'm ready to
What's
get up.
going on here?
Yeah. I was like, it's got to be that damn water. So I drank some more of it this morning. But yeah, I think I had asked you about doing that, and you're like, yeah, give it a try. It might help with that. Actually getting like I guess. Fuck, I can't remember what you were saying. But
Oxygenation, basically, you want to get oxygen, just like nitrous oxide. Some of the other factors are L-arginine you can use to increase oxygen uptake into your bloodstream. That's just another way to get more oxygen into your system and through the lungs and through your system. So anything that's going to increase oxygen uptake is going to be a good thing for energy levels and feeling better, because that's part of why testosterone therapy works so well, is because it increases blood cell production, red blood cells, which increases oxygenation. So
yeah. And I do a lot of cardio too, which I think kind of contributes a little bit to that. At least I've heard. So, but yeah, that's just me. And like, I guess it was the end of 2022 was when I started coming here, and I had never done testosterone before that. I had tried Ostarine, like a 6-week cycle of that, but that was 2 or 3 years before I'd ever come here. And I think whenever I started here, I weighed like about 140 pounds. And now, like, when people see me, they're like, dude, you're fucking, like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I kind of do steroids now. But but no, I've gotten a lot bigger, and people have noticed, like, that I look better, and I feel 10 times better. And Cialis is another thing that you guys give people, and that is probably the coolest thing I've ever taken in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it helps with a lot of functions that people don't realize that's actually can be utilized.
If you're a guy out there and you've never taken Cialis, you need to come to Man Up and get you a subscription or a prescription of that, because it's relatively cheap. It's like what, $20, $30 a month?
$30 a month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great for really blood flow, actually blood pressure, believe it or not, lowers blood pressure. It's not like Viagra. Viagra will actually increase your blood pressure, where Cialis does not. So there's some benefits to that. Also vasodilation, which helps blood flow. So it's going to help you get your gym time, and it's going to work better for you.
Yeah, it works at the gym too. Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
And for people who don't really know a lot about Cialis, it's not like when I tell people that I take it, they're like, "Wait, you can't get a boner?" It's like it doesn't give you a boner. I mean, it will if you need it to.
Yeah.
But I was like, it doesn't just immediately make you hard. I was like, if that was the case, then I would never take it. But no, it works for working out, and then like whenever you need it, it's there. You know, think of it like that. You
It
know?
helps with blood flow regulation. It helps with that function. It opens up the vessels, which is going to help you to function better on all levels. So it's not just helping the vessels in that cause the erection to work. It's all vessels in your body. So it's going to help.
Yeah, so it's more of it's like an all-around performance in the bedroom. You know, it's not just
In the bedroom and just performance in general, physical performance is going to increase your physical performance.
I take it in the morning.
The oxygenation increase is going to be caused by that. So that, again, those are benefits. You know, then again, like L-arginine is another one of them. Nitrous oxide is another one that's a booster for blood flow. And just get blood flow to things. And that's beneficial for your whole body.
Right. No, that's awesome. Yeah, so we talked about quite a bit. Is there anything, what's probably like your biggest hurdle on the business end? Like, is it growing the business? Is it finding good people? Is it
Right now, really
regulation?
honestly, keeping hiring staff, because we keep having to hire staff, having quality staff that have the same thought process. In other words, you can train people to do about anything, but you can't train them to be empathetic or care about patients.
Right.
If they just don't care about them, they don't care about them. So we don't want to just hire somebody that just is here to collect
To
a
get a
paycheck.
paycheck, yeah.
So it really is about quality of staff. It's probably one of our biggest struggles because we are hiring so many people and trying to kind of read through some of the job hoppers and some of the people that are just great, that do great at interviewing, but don't necessarily do great. Or let's just say they haven't found their passion. And, it's kind of like if you went to college to become a teacher and then you find out after you get out of college, you hate kids and you hate your classroom and you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Some
I mean, it
people
happens.
they get into a field that they don't belong in. They're
Right.
not people persons. They're not, like for example, I couldn't walk up to somebody and not say hi to them. I would probably flip out and have a spasm or something because my body won't allow me to do that. So if you're working in a front desk, you know that you should be like a Walmart greeter, right? You should be
Yeah, you should be
waving
good
at
at that.
everybody, acknowledging everybody. So if that's not you, you shouldn't be working customer service at all. If you just don't like people or don't even like to acknowledge people, or you have anxiety around people. So unfortunately, we get some of those people that really just in the wrong field. Maybe they would be better at a back office job where they're doing collections, where they're not really involved with people up front. So it really comes down again trying to keep quality of staff involved. You've met Allie, and she's been a phenomenal hire. And you can tell the difference.
That's out there
right?
now. Yeah,
so
she's great.
Very charismatic. She cares about the patient results.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you want to have, and so you can only fake that for so long. But there's still a process where we're spending money to train staff. We want to invest in good people, and so that's really one of our biggest struggles as far as that goes, and making sure we have consistency throughout the clinics and experience that everybody has, no matter if they go to one of the 5 centers, they have that same experience.
Right. So hypothetical, if somebody was to come here and open up their own store, what type is there like a kind of like a cash flow threshold that they have to meet to stay open? Because whenever I was, I almost got into a franchise. It was a hot chicken franchise, so it's kind of like, what's that place over there? Any one-of-the-mill chicken restaurants.
Yeah, Popeyes.
Like Popeyes, kind of like that. But it was a new one that some young guys about my age had started out in Vegas, and it was very generic, the franchising, like how it worked on the business end, very similar to what you've just told me. But they told me that each store had to make $25,000 a month in revenue at the base to stay open, or else they could basically, shut your store down. And I ended up not doing it, but it was about the same initial investment. It was a $350,000 initial investment. Some of that went to your marketing. Some of it went to opening your first store. There was a 5-year contract involved, and over that 5 years, you had to open up X amount of stores. So is that what I'm getting at is, if somebody opens up a store with you, are you pretty strict on, hey, your cash flow after everything, like you need to at least be bringing in, 5, 10, 15, 20,000 a month? Is that kind of
Yeah, the great thing about our product line as a franchise is that really anybody is looking into a franchise, regardless if it's a Man Up franchise or a franchise in general, you want to be in a franchise that has memberships.
mm-hmm.
Memberships means that your revenue it keeps climbing. It doesn't go up and down, up and down. Restaurants, it goes up and down month to month, depending on how many people come into your restaurant.
Yeah.
When you have people that have signed up for memberships, just like gym memberships, they're going to come in. They're actually follow through with care better when they're paying
mm-hmm.
for it for themselves.
Yeah.
So now you get your general revenue coming in on top of then also your medical weight loss is another avenue, and so many different avenues, like with IVs and things of that nature and peptides, different revenue stream builders. But the other factor is you're not buying a large amount of, like in a food industry, you're buying all this food and a lot of it goes to waste. So you have some waste, right? With us, you may have some startup costs to just have supplies in your office,
mm-hmm.
but you're only buying more if you have more patients. So your
right.
costs don't go up unless you have new patients, and those new patients are paying before you order anything. So
right.
there's no real upfront cost.
And you shouldn't have like waste, really.
Yeah,
you guys don't have
no
much waste except for maybe needles and stuff and gloves.
We don't. Yeah, you're just disposal of that, but you don't have any waste. You don't have any loss because all of our supplements are ones that are used on a regular basis. So we don't store a bunch of things that are not utilized. So nothing expires. So it's really a good system because very minimal cost of what you're having to stock in a clinic, like you would have to, like if you were opening a GNC or some kind of nutrition shop, you would have probably up to $50,000 of product line just in the store just to have it maintained, right? So
right.
And so we don't require. We say we have like $5,000 in supplies we're going to have in the clinic for you to be open, but we don't require anything. It's just whatever you do. You know what I mean? So
right. And if you could compare something like this to like a GNC, if somebody was to break into that store, they're gonna take all that shit.
Yeah.
I would imagine most of the stuff here, you guys probably don't really carry a whole lot of actual product here. A lot of it's ordered and sent directly to the customer, because like you guys don't even have HCG in the building ever.
A lot of our product is ordered patient specific, so that means it goes straight to the patient.
So like if somebody tried to break in and like, we're gonna knock over this,
they're not going to get much.
They're not going to get much.
Couple computers and
it's all like, even if you were to get into the building, then you gotta like all your stuff's going to be keyed, locked, and it's got to be because of regulation. It's got to be
anything that's controlled is double locked and it's in a safe. So let's say another safe to the code to the safe, they're not going to get anything. Right. It's like a lot of these dispensaries, people break into them and don't get anything because everything's hidden and locked away. You're not going to get into anything. You're not going to get a dime out of these places, yet they still continue to break into them and get nothing.
Do you require any of your new franchisees, do they have to own their building, or do you prefer them to lease, or does it matter?
No, we don't control any of that. We do help with search of location, make sure that they're in the correct demographics for the company itself to make sure that they're going to be viable. Because the last thing we want to do is open a failing franchise.
Right. Yeah.
So we do help with that. We do even help with negotiations of the actual lease itself. The last two, I've saved at least $65,000 to $70,000 on our lease.
Making sure that they get some free time to get set up.
They weren't asking for that I put into the lease agreement, including having build out costs.
Yeah, getting build out.
So, like for example, the one we're in right now, I had to pay up front for the build out, but I got reimbursed every penny of it, and it's no out of my pocket. I had the money in advance, but then I got it back when we opened up for business. So,
but anyway, like I was saying, with leasing and stuff, whenever I first started thinking about doing like a franchise, I knew that I kind of had an inside track because I'm always looking at property on the MLS. I know what's out there, and I've always been big on location, because like with a house, three things sell a house: the price, the location, and the presentation. Yep. So, and I think it's the same thing with something like this. If you're not in a good location, and even if you are in a great location, but your building is looking shady and you don't have a nice bright sign and you're not inviting, you don't have the presentation, people aren't going to want to fucking come there. And that's why I love Man Up, because I mean, as soon as you pull up, there's fucking lifted shit everywhere. It's like, damn. And another thing is, not to be like sexist or anything, but always very pretty girls working in in the facilities, which is
Pretty and friendly.
friendly. Yes, very, very friendly. They're very nice. If they don't have the answer to what you've asked them, they will go get the answer. And I always like really, really appreciated that they weren't bullshitting me and just telling me what I wanted to hear. You know, and you have a very knowledgeable staff. And yes, I think that if you're appealing to the general public and you're going to have a testosterone facility and you're going to have a lot of men coming in, having some decent looking employees really helps.
To go back to the franchise and the footprint, it's also a very small footprint. So you're looking at 1,100 to 1,500 square foot, which means you can afford to be in the nice plazas. You want to be in where Snooks or a major, market is at. You want to be in the busy plazas, the biggest plazas in the area. And you can find those pretty open because nobody usually can use that small of a square footprint. So you get them actually usually at kind of remnant prices. You can get some really good negotiations because they've usually been vacant for a while. So that's a benefit too. And again, we help. I've lived in St. Louis my whole life, so I know St. Louis like the back of my hand. But I also do research on like Kansas City. I've done research in Mobile, Alabama. I've got research for Florida, several locations in Florida. So knowing where the viable locations are at, and that goes across the board, but it also goes with you contact somebody that's lived in that area their whole life too, and say, hey, look, if you're going to open one of these, where would you open it?
Well, you want to definitely, go to where the regulation is going to support you.
Yeah,
like you were saying, Illinois probably not going to be a man up there because regulation isn't super friendly.
You can still get around that in Illinois. So, but again, it is definitely more complex in order to do that. So it's not that it's impossible. In fact, there are other advantages to the state of Illinois, because in state of Illinois, you don't have to have a overseeing physician. You can run it with just a nurse practitioner, with a trained nurse practitioner to do it in that state. So you have a little bit less costs.
So it's kind of
push and shove. So a little more cost legalities, but less cost upfront significantly when it comes to what you pay out per month. So
that was definitely something I wanted to ask you is, where, like, I think I did ask a little bit before as far as like, where do you want to go as far as markets? Because like I've thought about it, and it's like, obviously you're not going to want to be in some little tiny town, but St. Louis, there's obviously room for more locations here. Right. There's Kansas City, Columbia, Missouri, which would probably do pretty well.
Yeah, we look at Columbia as a good
Springfield, Missouri,
good source.
Joplin.
Springfield, anywhere there's a major college,
right,
it's going to do well.
I'm getting ready to sell some of my real estate and was going to try to get into a different business altogether. I'm still going to own a bunch of real estate, but I'm getting rid of some of these little single family houses that I bought that just, at the time I was like, this is a good deal. And now I'm like, okay, I'm making like $300 a month, which in real estate isn't bad, but it's like, cool. Like this house is worth 150 grand and I'm sitting on, like nothing. So it's like I could sell that and probably, maybe 1031 it into something. I'm not sure if you can sell and 1031 into a business. You might be able to do that.
Into a franchise, because you're still investing in.
So there's some tax advantage to it.
Yeah, there is.
I'm getting ready to sell a couple houses, and I'm like, I'm either gonna start. I looked into like the those little smoke shops and stuff where they because I drink kratom, so I'm like, there's obviously a big markup on that, because the prices are all over the place with that. But I definitely want to get into something that's a little bit more brain work than renting a home.
Right.
I have an apartment building, which is great, but even though there's 35 people that live there, it's like I go there and I mow the grass and I pay the bills. And, if somebody has a problem, they can call me. But most of the time, they don't want to call me because I'm not the nicest guy. So, but, I've been kind of thinking about this. And that's why I wanted to interview you and kind of get some information on it. Because I think it would be a really cool business. And I like that you're like, I want to take care of my customers. I didn't get in here and you're like, dude, guess how much money I made? You want to see my Rolex? You want to see my BMW? Like, there's a lot of that, especially online with like younger entrepreneurs and like a lot of scams and shit going on. No, I think this is a great company.
I don't ever want to lead with that. I have 4 young girls. And I always taught my kids, don't talk about what you have, let
Right.
them like you for who you are. So
Right.
for me, if I talk about anything I have, it's if somebody knows the cars, that likes cars, I might tell them about my car or my motorcycles or
Right.
whatever I have if they have a passion for it. But I'm not just going to sit there and start blaring out everything I have because I'm glad I've been able to do that, and I don't need to. And I'm not going to take all the credit. God's gotten to where I am, and things
Right.
He's taking care of us, and we just make sure we stay focused on what's there, and that's
What's working.
patient care. Keep doing consistent what we're doing as a company. Again, that just starts with patience first. In this day and age, you can be successful, and I could be successful in any business, which is the model of do what you say you're going to do, right?
Right.
I mean, how many businesses out there that are, say they're going to come in like a sprinkler system. Trying to get a bid on a sprinkler system. I have 3 companies that I've called. I've had 1 come out so far, and this has been over a 2-week period of time. It's like, to me, that's horrible. I mean,
Right.
and don't claim you don't have business when you can. If I had a sprinkler business, somebody called me, I would have somebody there the next day, and I
Right.
would get that bid to them immediately. I wouldn't be sitting on it and like whatever they're doing with it. So to me, again, if you just run your business how you would want to be treated.
Yeah, I've seen an interesting. I watch a lot of entrepreneurial stuff and online and on YouTube and all that good stuff. But I've seen that guy that basically invented McDonald's, Ray Kroc. Did you ever watch
Yeah.
his like documentary movie thing that they made? A quote from him was like, "Take care of the customer, and the business will take care of itself." And I think in this particular industry, this is an industry where that
It is
that
huge
mindset will
application.
definitely work.
100% service orientated, and it's result orientated because you're going to keep your patients if you make them happy, make them feel good.
Yeah.
So that's big first and foremost. And a lot of these other companies around us are making it real easy to stand out. So I'm okay with that. So because we do what we say we're going to do.
That was something that I kind of struggled with as a real estate agent early on, and real estate agency is crazy. Like I seen a pretty wild statistic this morning that in the first quarter of 2024, 75% of the licensed agents in the United States did 0 deals.
Really?
0. That's 75% of the industry in the first quarter did not do a single deal.
Interest rates.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's honestly, that's how it's been forever because there's so many licensed agents. And they said that only 2% of the licensed agents this year have sold more than like 10 homes. Only 2% of all 3 million people who are licensed. Wow. Only 2%. So like if you're going to make it in real estate, like you have to be in
Focused.
the 1%. Like if you're not, that's just to make a living. To actually like make good money, like $100,000 a year out here in Missouri, we're talking 0.01% of the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I love about the industry is like, that's what it takes. It's not just anybody can come in and make some money. It was kind of like that in 2022. I seen a lot
rates were great. Down
2% interest. Everybody's buying.
Rate. Heck yeah. Battles on homes. People are like outbidding homes by $80,000 to $100,000 over ask, and it was a crazy.
Yeah, I was out in High Ridge, Missouri. A nice home, nothing crazy. It was like a log cabin. It was okay. Honestly, the house was worth about $225,000. Somebody paid $400,000 cash. It was listed for like $250,000.
Jeez.
And they come in High Ridge.
That's a rate.
What is out in High Ridge? Is there a gold mine? Is there an oil field out there?
There's not a lot out there.
No, it's trees and it's just a little town.
Yep.
But yeah, I went to that showing and my guy was going to offer like $15,000 over, which I thought was insane. And the agent come out and said, "Hey, we got to offer all cash $400,000." We're like, everybody just goes, "All right, we're fucking out of here."
Wow.
There's like 15 people there looking at it. So the industry slowed down a lot since then. It's not quite that crazy. But that was, like I was saying, when I first got into being a real estate agent, I was, just trying to make money. And I struggled, horribly because I didn't know how to take care of the customer. I was like, once they closed, I was like, cool, got my money. See you later. I don't care if I ever see you again. And that is not good for business. No. And it took me about 3 years to figure that out. And, because business in general, you got your personal life and whatever's going on, and then when you get around one of your customers, like all that shit has to fade away, and
Yep.
you have to, you have to really coddle this person and make sure that that they know that you're trying to help them.
Yeah, you got to
know?
think of it too. The way I look at it too is the real estate agent. You're earning your pay when you're doing that. I mean, that's
Right.
part of what you're doing is partly is earning like what you're doing for them, or to either sell their house or find them a house, and how hard you're working for it. You know what I mean? And then after the sale is important for the referral aspect of it. Like
Yeah.
that's where they're taking care of them, make sure everything's good. You know, give them a little present that's just says something that's going to leave a lasting impression that costs you next to nothing to do, and that follow through is going to allow that referral to come in from that patient that person versus if you just like got my money, see you later, and
and then you never talk to him
You never
again.
talk to him. We're like, yeah, we had a guy, but we thought he was good, but then he never really. That was it. We never heard from him. So
Yeah.
so you're not in their head either, or their mind, or anything else like that. So
Right.
so that is definitely something. There's something to be said about that. We can all improve on making sure we have customer satisfaction, and that's another thing is you should never stop learning. We're all, like I said, we
Right.
continually evolve our programs. Like literally, I'm researching every week about new things. So many things are coming out in the medical community now that wouldn't come out before or hadn't come out before. So we've got so many things that we've got to look at too and research and make sure we have to go through the BS too, like what is actually real, what is smoke and mirrors. These pellet companies and those things. We choose as a company not to use pellets because it's not really controllable. There's really not a way to dial somebody in properly. They're always going to fall off for 3 to 4 months. And the whole point of doing hormones is to keep the waves as little as possible. And when you do it on a pellet, you're doing it, it's going to die off between 3 or 4 months. That means you could have a month to month and a half where you're coming off and feeling not great. And
Right.
then, now it's time to get the pellet again. So, and then actually a female patient pointed this out to me, was that where they insert the pellet, if you're female and you wear any kind of a smaller swimsuit at all, any kind, you're going to see the scar tissue or where they insert the pellet at. So it's not an attractive thing to see either, which wasn't at the thought of my thought process. But there's other factors too. You know how big this device is. It's pretty big, and they're sticking in there every 3 to 4 months. So let's say 4 times a year. That is muscle. There's scar tissue that forms, adhesions that go into the hip planes, which are not good. Long term wise, that cannot be good for hip function over long periods of time.
I didn't want to do that at all.
So I was like, yeah, not. It's funny, you'd be afraid of a shot, but to have one of those chokers put in your hip, it's a pretty big device.
Right.
They're putting in your hip. So
Yeah.
I'm like, nope, I'm good. And they got to numb it up. So you're still getting shots, just not as many. So it's just really not a really good way to dial somebody in with that process, really.
Right. Well, we got a full hour there.
Okay.
It was a good conversation. I think we covered the good, the bad, and the ugly of the hormone replacement therapy industry. Maybe we could have you back on. I'd like to, talk to you more about opening up my own at some point.
Sure.
Because I think this is a great business. This is a fucking great business.
It is fantastic. I mean, if you like, being happy and being around happy patients all day long, I always tell my staff, this is an awesome job. Even when I hire people, I said, look, this will be the best job you've ever had if you like to be around people and like to be around happy people, because that's what you're going to see every day, all day long. When you take 75 pounds off of a woman and you see them coming in and they're in tears, they're so happy, and they're just like when you told them you're going to get back to the high school weight and you get them below their high school weight, and they can't believe it, and that empowerment they have there, the change, how they change physiologically and mentally.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's just fun. I call it Eeyore to Tigger, where like sometimes it won't look you in the eye at first, and then at the end of the process, they're like, you can't shut them up. There's like blah, 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 they're talking about, which is great.
Yeah, I could only imagine. I wish my parents would do it. But I mean, they're in their 60s now, but.
Yeah. Well, like I said, there's old thought processes that are involved there. Even doctors, old thought processes there as to of this and how horrific it is. And again, just like anything, things can be abused, but when they're under control, that was the point, is to have this under control, make it safe, make it effective, and get the results you're looking for. Like I said, most people just want to have energy just to do everything plus a little in a given day and not feel like they can't even lift their leg up off the ground after they get home. So that's a big part of it. So yeah, it's a really fun opportunity and business to be involved in, especially in the medical side of things. There's so many I couldn't be a cancer doctor or somebody that was dealing with death. I'm not built that way.
Yeah, or like
I think I would absorb too much of that energy.
Child's cancer
Yeah,
doctor.
oncology would be the last thing I'd want to do, or even radiology where you're stuck in a room back where some are reading images all day long, not talking to people. But there are definitely certain types that would work very, very well for. So
right. I mean, making $1 million as a doctor would be pretty sweet, but there's better ways to do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll wrap it up. Thanks for coming on.